Welcome to the Planning Commission meeting of December 14th, 2023. My name is Vern Crow, and I am the chairperson of the commission. The Planning Commission is a citizen body appointed by the City Council. The commission is empowered to make final decisions on certain matters, with those being appealable to the City Council. On other matters, the commission acts in an advisory role to the council, with the council making the final decision. You will have an opportunity to address the commission during the public hearing portion of the meeting. Your testimony is appreciated and encouraged. The commission acts from a written agenda. You will need to fill out a yellow speaker card and give it to the city staff if you wish to speak on an item. Copies of the agenda and speaker cards are located on the table just outside the main door to these chambers. At this time, please be sure to silence your cell phones. Thank you. There are 7 members appointed to the Planning Commission, and at this time, I will ask the commissioners to introduce themselves and state the district they are representing. Starting from my far right.
John Crow, Mayoral District. Tom Cole, Mayoral District.
Edwin Nyberg, Choya District.
Martin Novakowski, Yucca District.
John Gears, Ocotillo District.
Brian Hooper, Suoro District.
And again, I'm Vern Crow representing Cactus. Let the record show that all the members of the Planning Commission are present. The Planning Commission receives staff assistance and guidance from the Planning Division and the City Attorney's Office. Now on to the approval of the minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2023 Planning Commission's regular meeting?
Mr. Chair, I move approval of the minutes from the November 9th, 2023 Planning Commission.
Do I hear a second?
Support.
I have a motion and a second to approve the minutes of November 9th, 2023 Planning Commission's regular meeting as written. All those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed? Motion carries. Ms. Perry, are there any withdrawals or continuances this evening?
Good evening, Chairperson and Commissioners. There are none withdrawals or continuances this evening.
Thank you, ma'am. As there are none, let's move on to the public hearing. Is there anyone here that wishes to speak on an item that is not on the agenda? Okay, the public hearing is to provide interested parties an opportunity to present testimony for the Commission's consideration. We will follow the same procedures for each item. And that is, I will call the application number and the name of the applicant. Staff will present their report and answer questions from the Commission. The applicant will be given the opportunity to make a presentation and answer questions from the Commission. Other persons who wish to testify will be asked to do so and answer questions from the Commission as well. The applicant will have an opportunity for closing comments. Staff will be asked for a final comment on the application and procedural guidance if necessary. I will then close the public hearing and ask for a motion prior to discussion. If you wish to speak on an item tonight, you will need to state your name and address for the record. Please be brief and to the point and avoid repetition. I reserve the right to limit the length of your testimony. All exhibits shown to the Commission become part of the permanent record and must be submitted for the file. Large groups should designate a spokesperson. Applause or other disruptions which delay the hearing will not be tolerated. We have 3 public hearing items this evening. The first on our agenda is case number CUP 23-01. Mr. Lerma will present the case.
Good evening, Mr. Chair, members of the Commission. Before you have a request for a conditional use permit in order to allow convenience use, drive-through use in the general commercial zoning district. Property is located approximately 0.9 miles east of City Hall. It is located west of the southwest corner of 51st Avenue and Glendale Avenue. Subject property is approximately 0.46 acres in size, or 20,212 square feet, and it is located in the Ocotillo district. The property again is zoned general commercial. Properties to the north, the south, the east, and the west are also have the same similar zoning. The general plan designation identifies the property with a land use designation of planned commercial. Here's an area of the subject property highlighted in red. As you can see, the property is located within an existing shopping center that has established uses to the site. Just a little bit of history of the site itself. The shopping center was developed back in 1968, and historically the subject property has been used for parking purposes for the already established uses within that shopping center area. A few things to note about the area as well. The shopping center itself already has established access points. There's 3 access points along Glendale Avenue. There's 1 access point on 51st Avenue, one access point to the south on Lamar Avenue, and 1 access point on 52nd Avenue to the west side of the shopping center area. Here's a site plan that's included within the conditional use permit application. The project itself entails the development of a commercial building with a drive-through lane. The orientation of the building in a drive-through lane location is in order to allow enough stacking for the drive-through lane. The queuing of the drive-through lane will be for 11 vehicles. Keep in mind that the coffee shop proposal, it will not have a dining area. All services will be done through the drive-through window that's located on the east side of the building, and a walk-up window that's located on the north side of the building. Hours of operation are going to be 4:30 a.m. to 7:30 p.m. Monday through Saturday. The traffic impact analysis that was included within the project, it's projected that 179 the site will generate 179 daily trips. Here's elevations for the proposed coffee shop. The design of the building is in order to accommodate those already established buildings that are located within the shopping center area. The brick style facade of the building is to complement the fire station and the beet sugar factory that's located directly west of the subject property. Property owner has completed the citizens outreach process. The property owner distributed letters on July 30th, 2023. There was only one somebody that contacted him back. There was an adjacent property owner that was inquiring and wanted additional details about the proposed use as far as the use itself and hours of operation. Staff has concluded their analysis of this proposal and has made the following findings. The proposal meets the intent of the planned commercial land use designation. The planned commercial land use designation encourages the planning and the development of commercial properties as one entity, meaning that is encouraging several commercial uses and services within one area, sharing access points, drive-through lanes, and common landscaping area. The subject property meets this intent. It's located within an established commercial center that's been providing goods and services for the past 55 years. Access points that there are, the access points to the site and the drive-through lanes are already there. They're already defined and in service. The proposed use will not have a negative impact on the surrounding uses. The surrounding uses are commercial in nature, just as well as the proposed use. The the closest residential property is gonna be about 310 feet away at a residential community that's gonna be southeast of the subject property. The development standards and design standards are there in order to mitigate the impact that this use might have on the surrounding uses. Based on the site plan that was distributed, the planning staff has determined that the proposed building location meets the development standards of the C2 zoning district as far as building heights and building setbacks. The site itself will abide by the landscaping requirements as far as a 4-foot screen wall for the parking stalls that are proposed along street frontage on Glendale Avenue, and a 4-foot wall that goes along the east, the south, and the west property lines in order to buffer the drive-through lane from the other services within the project site. The subject property is adequate in size and shape. Again, the subject property is approximately 20,212 square feet, which is enough to provide the use that it's proposing, and it has enough area for stacking internally to the site. For zoning ordinance, our zoning ordinance requires a vehicle stacking of 6 vehicles, or a stacking of 6 vehicles. My apologies. The subject property or subject site is proposing 11 vehicle stacking. Through general review, the staff determines that the site plan demonstrates general conformance with applicable city standards. The part of the submittal required the applicant to submit a traffic impact analysis. Keep in mind that the traffic impact analysis documents existing conditions to the site and the surrounding area, takes into account the proposed site plan that was distributed, calculates anticipated site generated trips, and if any turn lanes are warranted to the site. So the traffic impact analysis that was approved by transportation staff indicates that this type of site will generate 46 a.m. peak hour trips, 17 p.m. peak hour trips, and 179 daily trips. It also concludes that no eastbound right turn lane was warranted on the west axis to the shopping center on Glendale Avenue. Keep in mind that both access points to the northeast and northwest of the subject property, the access points that are already established along Glendale Avenue, are defined as full driving aisles, meaning that you can make a right turn into the shopping center and exit out either left or right. So that's considered a full driveway. Keeping with that topic, the east access point to the shopping center on Glendale Avenue is currently a full access drive. Transportation Department is requiring the applicant to modify that access point to a right in, right out. In order to control internal traffic circulation and avoid spillouts through the drive-through area along the public roadway, the applicant is required to put removable traffic delineators along the west access point, which is depicted on the site plan. So the applicant is required to locate these traffic delineators on a daily basis during operable hours of the AM peak hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and the PM peak hours of 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. to prevent the ingress-egress on the west side access. With this, staff recommends a recommendation of approval for CUP 2301 with the following stipulations. Stipulation number 1, the developer shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan and project narratives, date stamped October 18th, 2023, subject to design review approval by the Development Service Department, Planning Division. And stipulation number 2, the removable traffic delineators as depicted on the site plan and proposed on the west access point to the site shall be located on operable dates during AM peak hours of 7 a.m. to 9 a.m. and PM peak hours of 3 p.m. to 5:30 p.m. to prevent ingress-egress along said access point. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Mr. Lerma. Commissioners?
Chairman? I have a question.
Commissioner Gears?
On the traffic delineation, I live around here and I'm really glad that this is going to be built. But I see a possible Pete's Fish and Chip issue here. What's going to stop people from turning left when they're heading west on that first driveway to get into at rush hour traffic? And then the driveway south access next to the AutoZone, that's going to be, looks like a real busy entrance, and people are going to be racing through this parking lot to try to get around and make a U-turn and get back in the entrance to the drive-through. So did the traffic study look into things like that?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Gears, the traffic did make a determination or an anticipation that that more than likely those patrons that will be accessing the site would be coming off of Glendale Avenue and would provide, will either choose either of these driveways to access the lot. It wasn't anticipated that most of the traffic was going to be coming from 51st Avenue to that access point on 51st Avenue where the AutoZone is at. Based on their projection, recommendations were made for these two access points along Glendale Avenue and internal to the site with the traffic delineators, my apologies, in order to prevent access on the west side of the subject property.
So the owner is responsible for putting these up, taking them down. And what exactly does that look like, a traffic delineator?
It's you could see them along the freeway a lot of times where they're closing off access points. They're a cone, I wouldn't call it a cone. They're higher than a cone, but it's kind of like a plastic pole that has reflectors on it. There's different options really of what they can use, but there's specific traffic delineators that are pole types made out of plastic that are screwed onto the access point.
So they're going to have to screw those on every morning and then take them off for the day and then put them back up?
Commissioner Gears, this is correct.
All right.
That's the second stipulation.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Mr. Lerma, thank you. Okay, would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward, state your name for the record, and make a presentation? You want to add anything?
I don't have any.
Okay. Would you step up to the podium, give your name and address, please, sir?
Neil Fieser from RKA Architects, 2233 East Thomas Road, Phoenix, Arizona.
Commissioner Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Mr. Fieser, good evening. Is this your first Starbucks configured like this in Glendale?
In Glendale, it's the first one I've worked on that's drive up, with no interior accesses, if that's what you're asking for.
Let me rephrase. Is it your first Starbucks in Glendale that's going to use the traffic delineators?
Yes.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Anything else? Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Mr. Lerma, anything further?
Mr. Chair, no other comments.
Thank you. I don't have any speaker cards, but just on the outside chance, is there anybody out there who would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, the public hearing for case number CUP 23-01 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Motion.
Chairman,
Commissioner Gears?
Commissioner Gears, I would like to I move to make an approved, I got my earphones driving me nuts. Let me turn them off. It's echoing and I can't hear. I move to approve CPU 2301 per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioners, any further comments? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve case number CUP 23-01, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. I will now conduct a roll call vote starting from my far left. Commissioner Hooper.
Aye.
Commissioner Gears.
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski.
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg.
Aye.
Commissioner Cole.
Aye.
Commissioner Crow.
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number CUP 23-01 has been recommended for approval, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps in the process?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to case number CUP 23-01 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you, sir. Our next agenda item is case number CUP 23-22, and again, Mr. Lerma will present.
Mr. Chair, members of the commission, before you, you have another request approval for a conditional use permit. This is for the distribution of finished goods within the planned area development. Property is located 5.5 miles southwest of City Hall. It is located west of the southwest corner of 99th Avenue and Ballpark Boulevard. The site is approximately 48 acres in size and is located in the Yucca District. Property is zoned planned area development. It is part of the Main Street planned area development. Property to the north is going to be business park and planned area development, which is part of the Vision 2 planned area development. Property to the east is also part of the Main Street PAD planned area development, and the properties to the west and the south are going to be mostly agriculture residential. The subject property has a land use designation of business park as well. There we go. This is an area of the site just to get a context of the existing conditions of the site. It is currently vacant. Again, this is part of the plant of the Main Street PAD. Surrounding uses are also going to be either vacant in nature or going to be a low density residential. Keep in mind the properties directly south of the subject property. Those are established low density residential properties. A little bit history of the site. The site has There we go. Backtracking a little bit, just to give a little bit of historical context to the site, it's traditionally or historically been vacant and used for agriculture purposes. On June 26, 2007, City Council approved a request to rezone a property from A1 agriculture to planned area development, part of, again, the Main Street PAD planned area development. This is the master development plan of the site, just to provide additional information for the site. The industrial business park has a longer, there's more to the actual plan. For the Main Street PAD, it requires a master development plan to be approved prior to a design review. The applicant went ahead and did that and has received approval for the master development plan that shows the industrial business park area, which is 48 acres, and the multifamily portion that's to the east That's 11 acres. In total, the project area is 49 acres, but again, the area that we're looking at tonight is specifically for the 8 acres that are dedicated to the industrial site. Just moving a little bit closer to the industrial area and focusing in within that area, the site plan depicts 3 buildings ranging from 153,000 square feet to 433,000 square feet with a total of 741,000 square feet. The buildings are orientated north and south in order to have the massing of the building internal to the site, and the driving aisles and driving access are to facilitate the interior circulation to the site. Keep in mind that the subject property isn't going to only be dedicated to the distribution of finished goods, but will also have other tenants within the site that will also have uses that are industrial in nature. There's within the site plan, it indicates a 8-foot wall that's going to be erected along the south property line, the east property line, and the west property line. Landscaping, most of the landscaping area is going to be concentrated along Ballpark Boulevard. Per PAD requirements, they're going to have to install a 30-foot landscaping area, and internal to the site, there will also be a landscape dedicated internal to the site within the driving aisles and the parking area. Primary access to the site, again, there's 3 points of access to the site all along Ballpark Boulevard. All 3 access points are required to have a decel right turn lane. Here's conceptual renderings of the buildings. Keep in mind that the project is still going through a design review process concurrently. But this is just to show conceptual, the elevations of what the building might look like. Property owner has completed the citizens outreach process. Neighborhood meeting was conducted on August 28, 2023. There were 3 residents or 3 property owners that attended the said meeting. There was a property owner that resides directly south of the subject property who brought up concerns about the fowl that reside within the canal area that's west of the property. Property owner assured him that the development itself wouldn't impact the canal, and the fowl that are there will be safe. There was a representative of the Holiday Inn that's near the site as well. They were interested to know the scheduling of the development and the construction of the site. Property owner communicated with them offline to provide them their contact, and has distributed that information. Staff has concluded their findings, or has concluded their analysis, and provides the following findings for this request. The project meets the intent of the business park land use designation. The BP designation provides for large-scale campus-style development and encourages to reduce vehicular traffic along the public roadway and focus internal to the site. The site plan achieves this goal by providing enough driving aisles and organizing internal traffic circulation internal to the site by locating the loading areas internal to the site facing the buildings. That way, it can alleviate traffic along Ballpark Boulevard. Subject property also meets the intent of the Main Street PAD. This subject property is identified as Parcel B of the Main Street PAD. Within the Main Street PAD, Parcel B is encouraged to be for business park and commercial type development. The proposal meets this intent. The property development standards and landscape standards, again, are in order to mitigate the impact that this property might have on surrounding residential uses and other uses. In this case, the established residential uses to the south. Keep in mind again that the property is required to put an 8-foot wall, which is shown on the landscaping plan. They're showing an 8-foot wall along the southeast and west property line. They're showing a landscape buffer 30 feet in depth along the north and south property line. They're showing a 15-foot landscaping buffer along the east and west property line and a 4-foot screen wall along street frontage on Ballpark Boulevard. The subject property and the request is adequate in size and shape for the zoning district. Keep in mind again that the area dedicated to the industrial business park use is 48 acres, which is substantial in size to accommodate for the 3 big buildings that they're locating on site. Keep in mind, building, what's identified as Building A. Building A is the closest one that's going to be, that's close to residential properties, to the A1 zoning district to the south. That building is approximately 259 feet measured from the wall of the building to the south property line. The site plan meets general compliance with the applicable city requirements. Again, this project was required to provide a traffic impact analysis. Going a little bit back to focus more on the access points. Access points are designated and are located within those specific points in order to align with the future development of the Vision 2 planned area development that's to the north. Again, based on the traffic impact analysis, all 3 access points are required to provide right turn and deceleration lanes. The traffic impact statement is taking into account both the business industrial park and the multifamily development. And again, is requesting right turn lanes on all 3 access points, providing 160 feet of storage and 150 feet of straight line taper. With this, staff recommends approval of the request for conditional use permit 2022 with the following stipulations. The development shall be in substantial conformance with a site plan and project narrative, date stamped October 3rd, 2023, and subject to the design review approval of Development Service Department Planning Division. Stipulation number 2, eastbound right turn deceleration lanes will be required on the site's 3 access points along Ballpark Boulevard. The right turn lane should provide 160 feet of storage and 150 feet straight line taper. And for stipulation number 3, which is a little bit long, I'll provide you the exhibit. It says, per ordinance number 2572, the developer shall adhere to the stipulation number 3 of the approved Main Street PD case number ZON 0711, requiring half street improvements adjacent to the site being completed at the time of development. As depicted in Exhibit A, which is before you, the site plan represents the construction phasing of the project with building B and C, area highlighted in red, as a first phase, with completion of the site and right-of-way improvements adjacent to those buildings prior to receiving a certificate of occupancy for those buildings. At a later date, the developer will construct Building A, area highlighted in blue, as a second phase and will complete all site and right-of-way improvements adjacent to the building before receiving a certificate of occupancy for Building A. If the applicant or developer buys properties to the south, the requirement for half street improvements on Rose Lane will no longer apply as long as future development includes the south properties in the overall project as described in the project narrative of CUP 23-2022. Mr. Chair, members of the commission, this concludes my presentation.
Commissioners, anything for Mr. Lerma?
Chair.
Commissioner,
So I guess the pie shape there to the west of Building A, it's hard to read, but is that going to end up being retention?
That's actually a lift station.
Okay. I couldn't make out what it said, so I was curious what they were gonna use that for. That's all.
Commissioners? Commissioner Noakowski?
The 11 acres set aside for multifamily, where's that at on the map?
That's projected to be, at this point, is projected to be multifamily. We haven't received any type of design review for that one, or a formal submittal for that proposal. But this is, again, this is the site plan, Commissioner Nowakowski, this is a site plan specifically for the industrial site, but the one before, the one that's labeled master development plan, on the east side
Oh, I
of
see
the,
it now.
yeah, of the
Gotcha.
industrial site.
Thank you.
And that's, 11 acres will be dedicated to that portion of the development.
And just curious, what kind of commercial purposes could be in here?
Most of the the Main Street PED, there's several uses that are allowed that are industrial in nature, which is warehousing, distribution type of uses.
Okay, maybe the developer, when he speaks, can tell me, because it said finished goods, sale of finished goods. I was just kind of curious about that. Thank you.
Commissioners?
Sure.
Commissioner Crowe?
Mr. Lerma, I'm assuming, because it's not on the packet, that there's, we're not expecting any impact to the future expansion of the municipal airport there based on the development of this general area.
Chairman, Commissioner Crowe, there was no comments internally to, when this went through internal review, the airport department didn't provide us comments for that, so the answer is no.
Commissioner Cole?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Alex. So the half-street improvements aren't required until the buildings are developed. So B and C will have half-street improvements, and A, the half-streets will wait until A is developed. Do I have that right?
To the chair, Mr. Cole, that's correct.
So if this developer, for some reason, does not continue on with the project and develop A, we will have a scalloped road until somebody else develops the area where building A is proposed. That would be more adjacent to 99th Avenue is what I'm getting at. We would have a narrow road coming off 99th Avenue to the west, widened road in front of B and C until A is built. Do I have that orientation?
That's correct. Again, based on the fact that the project is gonna be phased out, it's anticipated that building B and C will be the first ones to be developed. Therefore, the city is asking to do the on-site and off-site improvements to that phase. Then additional phase will be done for building A for phase number 2, both on-site and off-site improvements.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Thanks, Mr. Lorma. Okay, would the applicant and applicant's representative please come forward, state your name for the record, and make your presentation if you want to add anything.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, Jason Morris with you, Morris Spa, 2525 East Arizona Biltmore Circle. Thank you for the opportunity. You know, Mr. Lerma has done an excellent job giving you an overview. With your permission, I'd like to walk through a presentation that we put together. I'll try and be brief. I know you have another item on the agenda, but it may answer some questions or it may spur some questions that haven't been asked yet. Is that all right with you?
Sure.
Thank you. Now, the chances of me choosing the right button on this, it's not that one. There we go. Thank you. Mr. Chair, Commissioners, you have a good sense of the overall area. You understand the underlying zoning, and you also understand the nature of what we're requesting tonight is not the nature of the zoning, the underlying zoning. It is an additional use that we are attaching to the underlying zoning. But much of what's planned for this property, much of what is slated for this property is already allowed by the existing PAD that was discussed. So this is an opportunity for a distribution use, which is one of the things that the PAD lists as a conditional use permit granted by the Planning Commission. The site itself is 48 acres, again, within the area that has already been designated in your general plan and your future plans, your envision plan for this type of use. And given the size and the shape of the property and its proximity to the 101, ideal for the types of building sizes that are being slated here. Reiterating the general plan map showing that this is a business park area. Again, that area covers not only our property, but the surrounding properties, which is why even within the immediate area, you see development of this type. As you get a larger context, this gives you an idea of the existing light industrial a little bit further west. Again, the proximity to the 101, but also the transition in this area that you're aware of, because you see these cases regularly, between the ag uses and the light industrial uses in the area. The PAD that I referenced does allow all of the uses that we're contemplating, and we can talk a little bit more about that to Commissioner Nowakowski's question about the types of uses that we envision on this site. But distribution of finished goods is one of the allowed uses subject to the PAD, and again, what we would contemplate for these buildings, or at least a portion of the buildings. The site plan has already been covered by staff, but as you can see, we've talked about the size of the buildings. Obviously, the two buildings in the first phase are the smaller buildings. Larger building A is the second phase of construction, but even that building is not requesting or requiring any variance from the existing underlying code and is still about 260 feet from the property line. You know, it's referenced in the last slide, and we're showing some illustrations here. It's anticipated about 800 jobs from this proposed project overall. Getting into the tenants and the users, the smaller buildings can probably could be demised into 3 or 4 users, but they could also be taken by single users. The same is true of the second phase building, the larger building. But what we typically see, because there'll be a small office component as well as showroom, manufacturing areas, light assembly, would not be surprised if part of these buildings were used as showroom. Part of them are used for manufacturing or light assembly, and part are used for distribution. The building design itself permits this type of division and demising within the building itself, but you can see from the building there's a good amount of glass. There was a lot of effort, again with staff's input, to make sure these are not entirely monolithic buildings. You've got some relief going up and down. The parapets are at different heights and create some shadows and some angles, as well as the buildings themselves. So the CUP criteria, and I'll try and go through this quickly because you've already heard this from staff, but obviously we need to be consistent with the policies and objectives of the land use map. As I noted, all of the uses that we're contemplating are approved. It's consistent with your larger general plan, the Envision 2040 plan, as well as the underlying general plan category and the PAD. So as we look at the next test, that's about the materially detrimental to any of the surrounding properties or the general welfare. As I noted, the existing zoning already permits these. The buildings themselves that we're showing, everything that's being proposed from a land use standpoint is already permitted as an allowed use. This is really related just to the distribution use that we are adding. But we fit well within the existing confines of the property, and we're not looking to vary any of those standards. So as we look at the size and as I just referenced, being consistent with our underlying PAD standards, we are meeting all of the existing PAD standards that are applicable to the property. And in terms of access to the site, which is really the next, the next criteria, that we have adequate frontage, that we have adequate ability to improve roadways, and that we have good access to the overall transportation system without impacting any other property. That's certainly true of this one. You saw from the earlier exhibits, we actually have multiple access points to Ballpark Way. And to Commissioner Cole's earlier question, what's actually occurring is we're working with the City of Glendale so that the improvements that are being made are going to occur all the way from the intersection of 99th and Ballpark West throughout the first phase. That includes the intersection itself all the way to the phasing line, but you're correct, the second phase would then determine the building of the very final portion of Ballpark Way. So that will hopefully just be 2 phases, not multiple phases all the way down Ballpark Way, because we're working with the city and the city is making those improvements along with us. We've had an opportunity to review the staff stipulations and understand and agree with those stipulations and worked with staff on the staff report. I think we have a final slide that will summarize my brilliant narrative, but I'd be more than happy to answer any questions you may have.
Commissioners? Thank you, Mr. Morris.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, I don't have any speaker cards, but are there any members in the audience that would like to speak on this agenda item? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing for case number CUP 23-22 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Mr. Chair, I move to
Commissioner
approve.
Nowakowski,
I move to approve CUP 23-22 per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report.
do I hear a second?
Second.
Commissioners, are there any further comments or discussions regarding CUP 23-22?
Yeah, Chair, just one more question if I could.
Commissioner Crowe?
Ms. Perry, when we approve a PAD like this and then get a conditional use, does it change the allowed building heights for projects? So the projects that we've seen like this before have a cap at like 55 feet or so. Tell us about what that does here on this project.
Chairperson Crowe, Commissioners, the PAD, the development standards that's associated with that PAD still stands. So with this CUP proposal, the applicant would still have to adhere to the development standards such as the maximum lot coverage, the maximum height, as was approved within the PAD, if I'm answering your question.
You are, and
Okay.
the maximum height on this project is, on this parcel currently, do you remember what it is?
Let's see. Maybe the project manager know the maximum height of the applicant?
It's 55 feet.
Commissioner Nowakowski?
I'd like to thank Mr. Morris for explaining the potential tenants and distribution uses. I think it's very unique, and I think it'll serve the area really well. If you do have suppliers for, let's say, the stadium or the new resort going in, the water park, hotels, and the retailers in the area, I think that's very innovative for the area. So it can only help, right? Bring down those transportation costs a lot, too. Thank you.
Commissioners?
Last question, Chair. So, Ms. Perry, was the airport contacted on this project?
Chairperson Crowe, Commissioners, as part of the team pre-app process and then the formal application, the airport was given the opportunity to provide comments on the proposal. As the project manager, Mr. Lerma, indicated that the airport did not provide any feedback, and my understanding is that there will not be any negative impacts on the airport based on this proposal.
Thank you. He said that they didn't provide any comment. I wasn't sure that that meant that they were actually contacted. Thank you. No more questions.
Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve case number CUP 23-22. Subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff, I will now conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Crowe,
Aye.
Commissioner Cole,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg,
Yes.
Commissioner Nowakowski,
Aye.
Commissioner Gears,
Aye.
Commissioner Hooper.
Aye.
Case number CUP 23-22 has been recommended for approval, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps in the process?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to case number CUP 23-22 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Okay, our next agenda item is case number CUP 23-25. Ms. Castaneda will present the case.
Good afternoon, Chairperson Crowe, Commissioners. I am the project manager for the conditional use permit application I'm going to present to you today. This is CUP 2325 for the dog boarding facility. Today's request is for a conditional use permit approval to allow a commercial dog kennel in the M1 Light Industrial Zoning District. The applicant is Julie Johnson for Arizona Mud Hut LLC. As you can see in the vicinity map, the site in relation to City Hall is about a mile from City Hall. It's located on the northwest corner of 57th Avenue and Maryland Avenue. As highlighted in yellow, the property is zoned M1. As you can see, all properties surrounding it, as well as properties across the street along Maryland Avenue, are also zoned M1, with the nearest residentially zoned property west, a little bit over 100 feet away from this site. Shown in the aerial, this property is fully developed. There is a existing building, a little over 5,500 square feet. It is completely surrounded by industrial uses, as you can see, and the closest residential zone property to the west is an existing mobile home park. And a little bit more history on the site. The building was actually erected in 1974, so it's been an existing site for over 50 years. Given the fact that this site is a little narrow, the orientation of the site plan was skewed. So north is on the left side of the property, and access from Maryland Avenue is shown on the right, which is south of the site. The existing conditions, the property will not, as proposed, will not increase the footprint. The building itself, 5,000 square feet, will be for the kennel use, which is in the rear side, with the main office use about 500 square feet along the frontage of the property. The rear of the rear of the building will be used for proposed play and rest area for the dogs to be boarded. And there will be new striping on the property to allow for parking spaces, as it currently is not providing striped parking. And there is details about the surrounding uses. As you can see, all surrounding uses of this site are all zoned M1 with existing permitted industrial uses. Some project details. The size of the building is exactly 5,525 square feet. There will be outdoor play and rest in the rear as shown in the site plan. Indoors, there will be 24 dog kennels and 3 indoor play areas. Given the requirement of 2 parking spaces, the applicant is proposing to provide 5 parking spaces on site. There will be appointment-only drop-off and pickup on the site, with drop-off being from 6:30 a.m. to 8 a.m. and pickup times from 4:30 p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The business hours will run Monday through Sunday from 6:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. The applicant has met all of the public involvement requirements during their notification process leading up to this meeting. neither staff or the applicant has received any correspondence from anyone who has been notified. There are 5 findings for the conditional use permit, and I will go through my analysis of the findings. For the first finding, the proposal is consistent with the general plan designation of light industrial and zoning classification of M1. These uses are usually medium intense uses that would generate noise, odor, and this is pretty consistent with the uses that are surrounding. And a lot of the uses in this area are vehicle repair and towing businesses, in addition to other uses that are generally allowed within industrial. The site itself is not detrimental to health, safety, or general welfare. Give me a second. Given that this site is is completely surrounded by industrial uses, both abutting as well as across the street along Maryland Avenue, this is pretty consistent with everything that's surrounding there. It will not detriment any of the surrounding residential. As previously mentioned, the closest residential properties are over 100 feet west of this site. The property itself, size and shape, as well as access and circulation, are adequate. In order to touch on the adequate size and shape, this property, the building itself, is non-conforming as it was developed back in 1974, but the size for the proposed use is adequate. Given the proposed 24 kennels, this should be sufficient, and given the size, in order to accommodate required parking, given that only 2 parking spaces would have been required, the applicant is proposing 5. In terms of access and circulation, through review, the Transportation Department approved the existing access off of Maryland Avenue, so there is adequate access to the site. There will only be one access along Maryland Avenue. And for circulation, in terms of being able to mitigate any potential congestion that will be that might transpire from this use, the applicant will put in place an appointment-based only system where they will allocate 10 minutes between each drop-off and pickup to ensure that there is adequate loading and unloading of the dogs. The property is adequate. It has conditions for mitigation, and some of these mitigation strategies, having the dog kennel in the rear of the property won't impact any residential, and also any impacts from odors will be mitigated through the constant sanitation and cleanup of the rear areas of the site dedicated for play and rest area for the dogs. The chemicals and the chemicals that will be used to treat the chemicals that will be used to treat will be both environmental friendly to both humans and dogs. And for the last finding, there have been adequate conditions and stipulations. Staff has worked thoroughly with the applicant to mitigate any potential issues that may arise with the proposal, and has fully reviewed and recommended approval for the application. Apologize. Staff's recommendation to Planning Commission is to approve CUP 2325, subject to the following stipulation. Development shall be in substantial conformance with the site plan, date stamp November 22nd, 2023, and the project narrative, date stamp November 13, 2023. This concludes my presentation. I'll be more than happy to take any questions.
Commissioners,
Chairman,
Commissioner Gears?
I'd like to ask a question about traffic study. Was there one done for Maryland Avenue?
Traffic study was not required per transportation when they reviewed it.
When there's a train, which happens twice a day, Maryland Avenue from 55th to 59th, is bumper to bumper, going in both directions. When there's a school bus that stops down the road at the mobile home park, there's bumper to bumper traffic. To have an appointment where someone can get 10 minutes to get in and get out, that's going to be complicated about 3 times a day. And then number 2, how many employees are going to use these parking spaces? Because there's no street parking whatsoever.
The applicant has indicated there will be about 2 or 3, but they can specify if there will be 2 or 3. But at this time, they specify 2 or 3 will be on site most times.
So you got 3 parking spaces, uses 1 EDA, so you really have space for 1 extra car. Because the businesses along there have a real difficult time getting in and out during traffic like that. Thank you.
As specified, yes, 2 or 3. It could be reduced to 2, but it would have to be to the applicant to specify how many employees will be on site at all times.
Thank you.
Commissioner Nowakowski?
Arizona, what was it called? Mutt Hut LLC. They're currently utilizing the space for dog boarding and uses right now?
My understanding is they shouldn't be utilizing it unless the CUP is approved for the use.
Okay.
The applicant can verify if they have been, but they're, at my understanding, that they're not utilizing the space currently. As they should.
Okay. All right. I think I saw online that they were, so, okay.
Oh,
Thank you.
Commissioners? Thank you. Okay, would the applicant or applicant's representative like to come forward, state your name for the record, and make a presentation, add anything? Why not?
Like to introduce ourselves.
Please?
I'm Julie Johnson. Do I have to say the address or?
Yes,
Okay. And that's my personal address or the business address?
your personal address.
Okay. 23276 West Arrow Drive in Buckeye.
And this lady?
Julia Duran, same address.
Okay. Go ahead.
So hopefully we're going to be approved, and we look forward to adding this service to Glendale. I think it's a really needed service. And yes, to answer your question, Commissioner, we are already advertising. We're hoping that we would be approved. We're very positive. So we're hoping that we can have an open house this Sunday and open our doors soon. If not approved, everything in the kennel right now is removable, so we can take it with us if not approved. But we hope to go forward. This is a great service. Both Julia and I have been in business for 10 years in Alaska, and we love dogs. Up there we have cats too, but down here it's just going to be concentrated on dogs.
All
Any
right.
questions?
No.
Okay.
Commissioners?
Okay.
Commissioner Gears?
So, excuse me. To answer the question of parking, how many employees do you have there?
Right now, it's Julia and I, and it's going to take us a while to get up and running. So we commute together. Obviously, we live at the same place. So right now, we're using 1 parking spot. We have 3, potentially 4, and then we have an ADA. We could put in 1 more spot next to the ADA, but in Alaska, I run my boarding facility with 3 employees. So, and right now we're appointment only too. We have a reservation system. So to address, we see the backup on Maryland as well. It hasn't been, because we are leaving about that time too, it hasn't been too detrimental for us to get out on Maryland. So we don't see that much of a problem with our customers being able to come in and go, because we're only going to have one like every 10 minutes. And usually the traffic is flowing by then, so. And really 10 minutes is kind of extreme for people actually dropping off and picking up because we know who's coming. We have everything ready to go, animals out the door and in the car in like 3 minutes. Because we've been doing this so long, we kind of have a routine.
So how many employees stay there 24/7 taking care of the animals?
We have a security system set up right now, so we don't have any overnight employees right now. If needed, Julia is there for, we kind of run it like the vet's office. If somebody's there, like a senior dog that requires more care, one of us can be on site.
Okay, so this is a boarding business?
Yes.
Where people let their dogs, their animals are mostly dogs, I guess?
Yeah.
And you take care of them 24/7?
Correct. Like if you were to go on vacation, we're your boarding facility.
And
Yeah.
you're not going to have anybody staying there at night?
No.
Security, just security?
Security systems, yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Commissioners? Thank you very much. Ms. Castaneda, anything additional?
Chairperson Crowe, nothing additional.
Thank you. I don't have any speaker cards, but are there any other members of the audience that would like to speak? Okay, hearing none, the public hearing for case number CUP 23-25 is now closed. Do I hear a motion?
Chairman,
Commissioner Gears?
let's see if I can get this right this time. I move to approve CPU 2325 per the findings and subject to the stipulations contained in the staff report.
So it'd be CUP 23-25.
Yeah, CUP. I'm dyslexic too.
Do I hear a second?
Second.
Okay, Commissioners, any further discussion or comments?
I just have one comment. I'm just concerned about leaving animals at a boarding place 24 with no one there. We boarded our puppy once, and they always had somebody there. And that's just a little bit concerning, especially in that neighborhood. So it's not the best place at night, unless the dogs can protect themselves. That's all my concern is. Thank you.
Commissioners, anything? Okay, I have a motion and a second to approve case number CUP 23-25, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. I will now conduct a roll call vote. Commissioner Hooper,
Aye.
Commissioner Gears,
Aye.
Commissioner Nowakowski,
Aye.
Vice Chair Nyberg,
Aye.
Commissioner Cole,
Aye.
Commissioner Crowe,
Aye.
Chair votes aye. Case number CUP 23-25 has been recommended for approval, subject to the stipulations as outlined by staff. Mr. Gruber, what are the next steps?
Chair and Commission, your action with respect to CUP 23-25 is final, subject to a written appeal received within 15 days.
Thank you, Mr. Gruber. Ms. Perry, is there any other business?
Chairperson Crowe, there are none.
Are there any planning staff reports?
Chairperson Crowe and Commissioners, just one. I wanted to advise the commission that the UDC was presented before City Council this past Tuesday, and I am delighted to inform you that they did approve the UDC. It will go into effect 30 days from Tuesday, which would be January the 12th. And the last note of saying thank you to the Planning Commission for your dedication and your comments, your feedback with the UDC, as well as your commitment with serving on the commission. Staff appreciate you. We thank you for your service, and we're wishing you a happy Merry Christmas and New Year.
Thank you, and I would like to say for myself, hopefully for the rest of the commission, that I really appreciate the staff and all of the work that they've done. Randy got a nice crew. And I do a lot of interfacing with Ms. Perry, which I don't know what I would do without her. Thank you so much. And Mr. Gruber, thank you for all of your guidance and tutoring us through the right way to do things. And commissioners, I'd like to thank you personally for your efforts and your trust in me to be your chairperson. Is there anything else that anybody would like to say?
Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Cole?
Ditto.
Thank you, sir. Okay. The next regular meeting of the Planning Commission will be held on January 25th, 2024 at 6 p.m. here at the Glendale Civic Center. If there's no further business, I will now entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We stand adjourned.